This story is a different kind of Twilight Zone episode. To be more exact, it's not one. An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge is actually somebody else's student film from a French film festival, re-edited as a Twilight Zone TV episode. Rod Serling's production team was wrapping up the filming of their final season at the time, yet the studio was demanding more hit TV episodes. So basically, the showrunners took in this award-winning indie film, gutted all the original audio, and placed the show's brand over it. None of the horror writers or storytellers the series usually had touched this project at all. And the only thing they did was insert a ton of songs and Serling's narration over it. That being said, this episode is so vastly different from the show that it's almost like it's not even a supernatural misadventure from an anthology franchise. I know, I can't believe it either. In fact, nothing magical or horror-related really happens. We follow a captive Confederate soldier who looks like Angry Joe, getting ready to be executed for his war crimes. But by pure chance, his hanging noose snaps, and Angry Joe falls into the river below.
Well, you know what they say. No news is good news.
Where he begins a daring escape to return home to his beloved wife and flee from this bloody civil war. And that's mostly our story. It's all about Angry Joe's great escape and homeward bound journey. There's quite a lot of beautiful imagery and visuals here, as Joe learns to cherish his second chance at life and grows his eagerness to fight his way back home. Unfortunately, the worst things I have to say about this episode is that it is very padded out. This was clearly designed as an art house experience with this almost French New Wave style of cinema. So many scenes are stretched out for long amounts of time, mainly showing off the whimsy of nature and how wonderful the world is through the eyes of a man who has so much to live for again. Yeah, it's pretty and stunning scenery, but it goes on for so long that it feels like the plot needed this to prevent us from noticing how paper-thin the conflict really is. No Kitten, there's seriously a 5-minute long sequence of Angry Joe submerged underwater, and while wonderfully shot, the scene drags on for a long while. Apparently, Angry Joe can hold his breath for minutes on end as his flashbacks go on. This episode would be so short if it weren't for these artistic extravaganza moments. Now, I don't have anything against the original short film's creators, but this was clearly not something built with a TV episode mindset. I mean, would any of you look at this and think, oh yeah, the Twilight Zone, it's so that classic style?
I hear each bird upon each leaf, the buzzing flies, the splashing fish. They moves around this living man.
Yeah, we're a long way from Maple Street, aren't we? If you can believe it or not, there was actually more to this short film, but most of it ended up on the cutting room floor. So I'm not certain if my issues with the story were from the Twilight Zone's producers or the original filmmakers. Considering that the Twilight Zone wiki stated most of the original audio was purged from the short film and replaced with all these songs, I think it's a victim of executive meddling. On an interesting note, this is one of the rare Twilight Zone tales where absolutely no dialogue is stated. Angry Joe and most of the other characters don't speak all that much. All of it relies on the performances alone to convey its story. And I will admit that it is handled well. I just wish we didn't have to sit through all the songs and artsy imagery before getting to our actors acting out the plot. Angry Joe happily reunites with his hot wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones, but just when everything is coming up Milhouse, he dies. The twist ending reveals that Angry Joe never escaped from his execution. Everything we witnessed was all Angry Joe's life flashing before his very eyes. It's a tragic end, but one that serves as a harsh moral in a story about appreciating your life, since it's not something you should waste. The Civil War was a grim era in history because it was brother against brother, fighting a battle that only caused a nation's people to drift further apart over different ideologies. However, both sides, Union and Confederate, were still human beings who longed for nothing more than to survive the fight and see those who they loved back home. A tragic man's only regret is not seeing his wife to cherish her love one last time. An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge has a strong skill at dramatic tragedy, but a pretty weak talent at pacing and maintaining the tension a story like this demands. All in all, I will say that it is a visually interesting art house flick with high-quality productions and a truly heartbreaking story about a man never seeing his loved ones again, yet also gets so slow to the point of boredom and so deeply artsy that it doesn't realize how shallow it really is. Maybe the original short film was superior, but I can only judge the Twilight Zone's take on it. And it was an okay experiment. I grant this a silver skull. I'm somewhere between a 6 or 7 since I do see value in this film, yet also felt like it could have been so much better. An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge is an ambitious passion project that I feel is simply adequate. Yet I can imagine some people finding this quite unique.
The Twilight Zone.